And I think we are live. We have with us today Jack Mullers, the creator and lead developer of the Lightning Network's ZAP wallet. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you Jack for joining us today.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hold on one moment. So I understand that last night you were working with Charlie Lee and Frank on the ZAP wallet. You installed and worked on the Litecoin mainnet, and you guys were testing it. And from Charlie Lee's 100 tweets today, it looks like the first Litecoin Lightning Network request and payment successfully happened. Very exciting news. Could you give us some updates on your behalf before getting started?
Yeah, absolutely. So Charlie and I worked. Charlie deserves a ton of credit. He updated a lot of the original Lightning code for Bitcoin to Litecoin, and I did some work on ZAP. And we had been running and testing things on the testnet, testnet blockchain for a long time. And today was the first mainnet transaction, which is extremely exciting for both Litecoin, all SegWit coins, Bitcoin included. So we're all happy about that. And yeah, I have a lot of work to do. So does Charlie, and bringing the Lightning Network mainstream with real world use cases and getting you all using it as well. But this is a great start, and we're well on our way. So I'm excited.
Absolutely, I'm extremely excited. This is a big step forward. Big step
Yeah.
forward. So could you give us a brief background of yourself, like how long you've been involved in cryptocurrencies and what motivated you to involve yourself?
Yeah. So all credit goes to my parents, actually. My mom is the Bitcoin mom on Twitter, believe it or not. Little knowledge drop there. And my father found Bitcoin in early 2013. But at the time, I was 19 years old, and I just didn't get it. But I dropped out of college, and I started getting into coding. And I think around 2014, it clicked for me. And Bitcoin and crypto is the most ambitious, meaningful project I've ever had, the opportunity of working on and working for certain people. So yeah, it's really that simple, man. I mean, what else would I rather be doing than Lightning Network and scaling blockchain to as many people as possible?
Yeah, no, that is really awesome. And you said you're a dropout from college. So what college did you go to before?
I went to St. John's in Queens, New York, for about a month. So I don't even have a college credit. Didn't do well.
Wow. That's really cool, though. I mean, you dropped out of college and you decided to start coding, and that's a really hard thing to pick up and start doing. A lot of people get extremely confused and put off, and then they stop doing it. So that's a huge challenge, and I think more and more people, younger generations, even younger than us, even though we're young and we're the next up and coming generation, I think they're starting to learn coding in school, which is actually pretty cool. But that's awesome that you did that. That's a big accomplishment.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes well with the whole Bitcoin and blockchain innovation. It's all permissionless. I didn't need anyone's permission to start building ZAP in my bedroom and start learning code and downloading repos and stuff. This is permissionless innovation, and I'm having a blast.
Yeah, it's totally like a free choice to be able to pick something up like that.
Yeah.
So could you tell us some of your past ventures and also what you have already contributed to the cryptocurrency community in the past?
Yeah, so I started getting into crypto development. I worked on a project for ChangeTip, which unfortunately isn't around anymore, but that was a long time ago. And then I started to get into some smart contract stuff with the 21 computer and Jeff Garzik, believe it or not, way back when. And I was working on a project that utilized Bitcoin smart contracts to do peer-to-peer gambling, so that peers would be able to gamble without a house in the middle, which was super interesting. There was a lot of legal questions I got. Yeah.
Definitely.
And then also this whole block size debate and scaling issue, which is that if we have this scarce resource, how expensive are people willing to bid for this, blockchain space to bet on like a Cub game, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
and which is what got me into the Lightning Network and, these layers, and how we can scale these things and where applications will live on blockchains and all that type of cool stuff. So yeah, that's it.
So you originally got into like the gambling aspect of cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, which was early on, and then also we know that it originally started with people using it on the dark net as well, right? The Tor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wasn't that early. I knew about Bitcoin in early 2013 when that was very popular, but I just didn't get it at the time. I feel like the question is like not when did you hear about crypto, but when did you hear about it the second time? Because the first time you always dismiss it. So I was a little late to the dark web activity. By the time I was getting involved, it was, okay, we've got, Bitcoin and Litecoin and all of these, cool cryptos as financial instruments, right? But then we've got these cryptos that also have a scripting language, and you can code them, and there's protocols involved, and what can we build, and more application layer stuff is when I really started to write some code and pick things up.
Yeah, when I first heard about Bitcoin, all I knew is that it had a currency value, but it was used on the Tor browser. It was used on like Silk Road and stuff like that. So that's all I really knew that it was used for. But obviously it was a far out stretch at the beginning when it did become a thing. But then people started to understand and were like, wow, this blockchain technology has a huge future. This is like the next big thing. This is like the .com era. So it's crazy that you got in so early and knew about it at an early time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on, what does the Lightning Network ZAP wallet provide to the community?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So the Lightning Network itself is a protocol. What that means is it's similar to like TCP IP for the internet, right? Protocols aren't designed to be user-friendly. What the Lightning Network does is it allows us to utilize, the security that a blockchain brings, but we can make instant and essentially free transactions on top of it. And at the protocol layer. But in order for mainstream adoption and people to use this protocol, there needs to be an interface that allows them to seamlessly and easily transact and receive and generate use cases and solutions for however they want to use this kind of decentralized, censorship-resistant, instantaneous like payment system, right? So was always the goal for ZAP, is that SegWit is ushering in this new era of now layers on top of this blockchain. So if we look at a blockchain like a settlement layer that's very secure and more used to store value, what does a layer 2 look like? And that's what SegWit's ushered in, and ZAP is just trying to allow people to easily use that, extract the technical protocol stuff out of it, and bring this stuff more mainstream, where the barrier of entry to use this stuff for your own good is very small.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because a lot of people think the ZAP Lightning Network wallet is only for the lightning fast payments, and what you saying is that it's also going to reduce the complexity of a transaction.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's nothing too fancy. There's no like crazy cryptography going on in ZAP. It's more this UI problem that Charlie addressed and that we can talk about. But the internet was around a long time before browsers and applications were built on top of browsers, and you see these things like Twitter and Facebook, and the browser allowed users to visually see and interact with this layered protocol, this network, and that's all ZAP is trying to do. Is I'm just trying to push innovation. As we scale blockchains to everyone, do merchants want to accept it? Do people want to gamble with it? If Netflix is dealing with credit card fraud in Africa, would it make sense if they were able to just put a QR code up? There's no fraud in Bitcoin or any crypto. It's all on the blockchain. It's all secured by math. Would that make sense for Amazon and Netflix to have this instantaneous, credit card fraud proof, no credit card percentage charges? Would that make sense? This is a very new technology, and I just want to, help people adopt it that aren't so technical, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It does make sense. I think one of the biggest hurdles that needs to be crossed is reducing the complexity of transactions. We have these codes that are letters, numbers, they're really long. Each different coin has a different length of letters and numbers. So it's really complex. And I'm sure anyone that runs into it, not even just understanding Bitcoin, but understanding how to, correctly transact, peer-to-peer transaction. It's hard for certain people. And I mean, it's hard for the average Joe as well. I mean, even smart people, it takes time to put aside to learn this technology. And I think you're doing a great job with this progressive vision to bring it to the next level, instead of hindering it with, how some people in the community are actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think this is the first time in crypto's life where we will start to see some consumer-facing, applications where it's not such a store of value, and that it could potentially be a currency. It could not work. Who knows? But it could not work. But for the first time, this thing could go mainstream with real-world daily use cases, which is it's exciting.
I mean, we see every single day there's more and more coverage, media coverage, people talking about it. I mean, I can't even tell you. I mean, my grandma knows about a Bitcoin. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's like people know about this stuff, but they have no actual knowledge of it. And I think it's us as a community that need to really educate people. But also, what you're doing a great job is reducing the complexity so that it's easier to understand. They don't have to know the full dynamic of the blockchain to be able to use the blockchain.
Yep,
which is awesome.
Absolutely.
So the next question I have for you is, will the ZAP Lightning Network wallet cater to more coins than just Litecoin?
Yeah, of course. So ZAP and I have no bias towards any coins. Right now, ZAP is built on LND, which is Lightning Labs version. That's their Lightning Network implementation, and they support Bitcoin and Litecoin right now. So those are the two coins that ZAP supports. But anyone is free to add support to their coin, as long as it has SegWit and the Lightning Network can live on that coin and that blockchain. And I will be more than happy to implement it. So I have no bias, but right now it's just Litecoin and Bitcoin.
Well, I think that's a great place to start. I know that we have, this is mostly, of course it would be Bitcoin and Litecoin. Those are the mains. But of course we have these other SegWit coins that have the opportunity that have been mentioned. Vertcoin was mentioned on the Litecoin roadmap. There's other SegWit coins out there as well. They all have the ability to implement into the ZAP network wallet, is what you're saying, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And if there's any interest and anyone watching, you can reach out to me and we can talk about how to get LND to support your coin, or if the devs are involved, you guys can fork LND and support your coin. And it'll take me no time to get it in ZAP. So my inbox is open.
Yeah. Your inbox is open on Twitter, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And his Twitter handle it's at Jack Maulers, right? At Jack Maulers. Alrighty. So the next question I have for you is, what makes, because I know that there's multiple different teams that are approaching the same thing, which is the Lightning Network. You've got Lit, you have other ones. So there's multiple people working on it, but what makes the ZAP wallet superior to other Lightning Network wallets or future Lightning Network wallets that are in stores?
Yeah. So when Charlie was talking last week, or I was a few days ago, about the multiple teams working on the Lightning Network, those are all at the protocol level. And so I think there are very few that are developing wallets at the application level like ZAP is. I know Eclair has an Android one that's running on testnet, I believe, but I'm not sure of any others. But I think what my intention was with ZAP and why I think it's different is that I intentionally turned down all business opportunities and investors with ZAP on purpose. I think throughout Bitcoin's history, and as these altcoins develop and have a path of their own, we've seen that business models kind of incentivize these companies to act against sometimes the best interest of the users, right? We see with ICOs, and we see these companies supporting contentious hard forks because, they need to generate a return. And I did not want that for ZAP. I think that the Lightning Network is very important. I think that it ushers in a new era, and I was more interested in open sourcing it and having this be the wallet that was built by the community for the community with no other incentive than to, deliver innovation and a good experience and help push, altcoins forward, excuse me, as we, go more mainstream with all of this stuff. So I think that was a big deal, is it's all open source. Anyone can create a pull request. And so the fact that Charlie Lee can ping me and we can make mainnet transactions overnight is what it's all about. That's what's cool.
Yeah, and I know you've been working around the clock to get this going. I know I've been just tracking you. I'm on the ZAP Slack. You guys are working so hard to get this moving. And what you were saying just now, there are no other wallets. It's just the ZAP Lightning Network wallet. They're all just working on the Lightning Network. But you are, the ZAP wallet is the only ZAP wallet. Just so the viewers are watching, that's right.
Yep, I believe so. I know Eclair is doing something. I think there's rumors that some of the Lightning Network teams that are working at the protocol level may come out with their own interfaces. But I think ZAP is the only open source wallet that is somewhat functional. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's lots of work that's left and that we have to do, but it's a good start, and we're moving.
So will the Lightning Network wallet be released once it meets a certain criteria of success, and then you will implement more things onto the software?
Yeah, so that's a good question. There was a lot of talks on, even if we should go to mainnet and start playing around with real money, when we should release this stuff to the public, and when we're comfortable with everyone trusting us with their transactions and deposits and stuff like that. So we're working internally, which just means on our Slack. If you would like to be a part of that, you can join the conversation, and we're kind of creating a roadmap as we speak, and some deadlines and some stuff we'd like to see before we kind of make a public announcement where there's one simple download link. But that's coming. The next 2 months will be super, super interesting. And this is just the beginning. So we'll see.
You heard it from the man himself. The ZAP wallet it's coming close to, I mean, you had the successful transactions. It's coming close to being released, closer than we thought. I know some people thought that it was going to be years out before they created this. At least that was the FUD or the rumors, but it seems like you've moved things along quite efficiently and fast.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there. That's okay. That's okay. That's all part of the crypto space, man. It wouldn't be the same without it. But yeah, that's okay. It is moving quickly, and I know that there are merchants that have reached out to me. I know exchanges are in talks with some of the protocol developers about, Lightning deposits and withdrawals and atomic swaps and decentralized exchanges, and it's all happening. I know I can tell you from experience that things are moving quickly, and that don't dive too deep into the misinformation and the FUD from actors that I shall not name. We're going to scale this thing very, very big, and they're welcome to come if they want, but if not, that's okay. But we're moving, so.
I love how bold you are. I mean, and you're like the most humble guy in this space right now. And you're even saying like it's about time we release the demons, we release Jack, and let everyone know about him. Because I mean, you are making a huge movement into the progressive state of cryptocurrencies, and you're coming out letting the world know that there is a lot to come. I mean, the anticipation is growing, and the misinformation is real. We've got Reddit, which is one of the worst sources of misinformation. And not even just Reddit. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how social media can control so much of the market. That's how you know we're so small. But yeah, it's awesome stuff. That is really good. And
awesome,
what you were saying before, not to get off topic, you were saying that you're excluding the people that, like the big money that's trying to lobby decisions. So that's
So this is actually a topic that I've been interested in for a long time before crypto. I have a few mentors that have written books on, venture capital in the industry and how it's a bit sketchy, right? Like a very good venture capitalist is right 1 out of 10 times. That's that famous line, is it? If I get one company that makes up my other 9 losses, right? That's a success. And that's a dangerous industry. That means 9 companies aren't going to do so well. And it's very hard to turn a profit in a business. That's not an easy thing to do. There's no switch for that. So you see a lot of these companies that are making assumptions about blockchain and about crypto and about Bitcoin. And some of these assumptions is that Bitcoin will just change whenever they need it to, if they want the block size bigger because they would like to be some type of third party that, you know, BitPay wants to issue transactions and stuff, that they'll just boost the block size, you know, increase centralization, and their business model will just work. And that's very unhealthy for the industry, right? Like their incentives now align against users and against this censorship resistant, you know, system that we've all, you know, helped create. And I didn't, you know, it's important to me that that doesn't exist with, you know, one of the very first Lightning wallets and something that's really pushing innovation. What's important is that this technology is transparent, it's honest, and that we're doing the best we can to solve like very meaningful problems. And, you know, there's plenty of money in the space. You know, everyone's celebrating all-time highs, right? So, yeah, I think morals should come first. And it was a good time to, you know, vocally support something like that, because there's a lot of people forking and ICOs and a lot of questionable activity going on, which is okay.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy the amount of stuff that's spreading. I mean, it just blows my mind. And I mean, I bought my first Bitcoin in 2012, but I didn't start actually investing my time until 2015. But it's like, you've got all this ICO frenzy. Everyone's buying these ICOs. And I'm like, man, this needs to stop, because it's like terrible that people are just getting their money taken from them. It's crazy. But yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome that you're pushing this progressive movement, but it's going to become mandatory almost, was what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would be a fool if I would sit here and tell everyone what it will become, right? I don't know, and that's just me being honest. I just want to push innovation, and I want to help this technology get out into the hands of people that, you know, find it beneficial. That's it. You know, I see this protocol and I'm able to you know, send transactions over my terminal with fancy coding language and stuff, and I want others to do the same. And if it takes a very cool interface and easy to read, you know, UI and application so that people can reap the benefits of a decentralized, censorship resistant, instantaneous, cheap transactions, then let's do that. What that, you know, ends up becoming, do machines pay each other, this whole machine to machine, or do we see Bitcoin used as a currency, or, you know, does the dark web and maybe, you know, like pornography industry adopt it as a payment system? Who knows? I don't know, but you know, that's I'm here to find out. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have Overstock.com just adopted these cryptocurrencies. That's a pretty big company. I mean, I've seen their commercials on U.S. television. But yeah, and there's another thing I want to talk about. I have the feeling that you have a decentralized vision for blockchain. What is are you focused on decentralization or not so much?
I am. I mean, I think that that's one of the very important value propositions of, you know, Bitcoin and all these cryptos that come to follow, is that it's censorship resistant and it's totally uncorrelated to any other market, right? It's this thing that you cannot shut down, and if you can't shut it down, all you need is a use case, and you know, it's a deflationary asset, and the demand will just keep coming. And that's very, very important, is that no one has any more say than anybody else, and that this thing will continue to live on as long as there's computers and people out there that are, you know, interested in supporting it. And without that, you know, I don't think anyone's interested in building a cooler PayPal, right?
Yeah,
I think
no,
people
definitely
are more interested in the innovation of, you know, a form of money that lives outside of a central party. So I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, we need to eliminate the third party with this world we're in right now.
Yeah.
And I think that there's so much that can be built on the blockchain. It's endless. There's so many things that you can do. I mean, give me some insight on what some of the things that like are in the future to come for not only Lightning Network but other projects.
Yeah, that's a good question. There early on there was this idea of like, well, we can put real estate on the blockchain, and we can put games on the blockchain and YouTube videos on the blockchain, and it turns out that the blockchain is a scarce resource. You have to end up bidding against other people to get, space in a block, and sometimes it can become expensive. So is there enough space to store things like videos, and does that make sense? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that, why not just put it on a centralized server? I don't need my YouTube video decentralized. I'm not sure, but now that we scale to these second layers, and we can maybe see some applications built on top of it, and this whole like Internet of Things where machines have wallets now and can make informed decisions with money is interesting. But yeah, I'm going to refer back to my previous statement and say I don't know. I don't know, and that's just me being honest. And that's also, though, what's exciting, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a very cool time to be alive and be into cryptocurrency. So.
Yeah, we don't know what the outcome is exactly going to be, but we know that there's just so much potential, just endless potential for the blockchain. And so I'm getting the vibe that you look at cryptocurrencies more so as a currency rather than some of these other fun tokens that we're seeing. Is that?
I do. Yeah, I'm not sure that these ERC20 tokens and these ICOs and those type of fun things actually have any value to real world application. I think that a lot of these things are used as speculative tools, and that's great. But what goes up must come down unless there's a reason for it to stay up there. And so unless it makes sense both from a science perspective, from cryptography perspective, how do you scale an Ethereum blockchain? How do you allow these applications to live on top of it in a decentralized manner, and things like that? I don't think those questions are answered. And you can look at market caps and price and determine success, but I think that that's very naive. And so we'll see. I mean, I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong, but I think right now we know that when you run something like Bitcoin, it ends up being a great form of money, very sound money. I don't know if you can put Uber on a blockchain like a lot of people, but I know money works. We all know money works, and it's great. It's one of the best stores of value and one of the best performing currencies, in the last 7 years, almost in a row, right? So,
Yeah, and I see it as a currency as well. I mean, it's hard for me, for the time that I've known about cryptocurrencies, it's hard for me to look past it and think that it could be more than a currency. But like you were saying with Ethereum and ICOs, it's a playground. ICO frenzy out there, and anyone and everyone can do what they want, and there's no regulation on it. So do you think that if they put some sort of regulation in for the ICOs or an Ethereum platform sort of gig, that would be beneficial to it, aside from the currency that we want to keep decentralized?
Yeah, I don't know. The whole ICO stuff, in my opinion, is just a little bit, it's gotten over the top. I think, I think a lot of the use case in crypto, which is no one's fault, is that, how do I make money? Is Bitcoin's $5,000 right now or close to it? Litecoin's expensive. What's the cheapest one that'll go up 100x? And that's okay, but speculation doesn't last forever. That's not a constant demand you can rely on. Speculation has a timeline, and it has to have some type of value in real world. And I don't even think Ethereum and Ether are, I'm picking on Ethereum. I don't mean to, but
I'm not a fan, but I don't want to say anything.
Yeah, I'm not picking on it. It's just, what happened to be the topic, but I don't even think that carries fundamental money qualities in the first place. So yeah, we will see. And people seem to be scamming and using it to make quick returns and stuff. And I think the same reason that people started to learn a lot about crypto and blockchains and stuff, because a lot of money has been made, I think we'll start to see the reverse at some point. Not everything can go up forever, and people will start to learn a lot about this stuff, and education will be paid for because a lot of money will be lost.
Yeah,
right.
That's for sure.
The same reason that someone wants to know what Bitcoin is, because $1 invested in 2010 is now worth $5 million. People will learn about, in 2000 and whatever, when $5 million invested in an ICO is now worth $1. And, education has to be paid for. And I think that the market has far outpaced itself, financially, with these hundreds of billions of dollars and market caps and all crazy stuff. and not understanding the fundamentals of what makes a blockchain important and what gives it value. And so I think the market, in general, will end up paying for that type of education, and we'll see a bear market, and that'll kind of squeeze out some of the nonsense. But everyone's a genius in a bull market, so
Yeah, of course. Everyone becomes a genius overnight.
yeah.
Once they get a couple bucks, they're like, oh my gosh. But like you were saying, like to me, since I first invested into Litecoin reminds me a lot of Bitcoin in like 2012. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Not saying that Bitcoin is going to be replaced. I think that Bitcoin is the gold standard. What I'm saying is that we're still very early on, and the fact that Litecoin is, just approaching like $100 today almost. I mean, it's grown substantially just this year, but I think it reminds me a lot of Bitcoin. I don't know if you think of the same way, knowing your
Yeah,
history.
I agree. I have some Litecoin, and I own Litecoin because it carries very similar properties to Bitcoin, and its values align. And now that we have things like SegWit, and we can do Lightning and atomic swaps and all types of cool things and side chains and stuff like that, the fact that Litecoin carries those same features, and they can utilize each other, is, I think, very bullish for Litecoin. So yeah, I'm a hodler. I'm a holder.
Yeah, I'm a hodler too. But yeah, Litecoin. I think Litecoin is just better known as better fit for being the payment system as an actual currency. And you guys are building on top of it, like we have seen with Lightning Network and all these things. That it's really going to fit that perspective. But if Bitcoin has Lightning Network, if Bitcoin has atomic swaps, is it only going to have these features just because you can transfer your Bitcoin into Litecoin atomically, so that you can spend it faster and cheaper with the fees? Is that the?
Yeah, so that opinion is common. The problem is that no blockchain was like born with defects, right? Like Bitcoin was not born with expensive fees. The reason it's expensive is just because there's a lot of people use it. So if Litecoin ends up becoming this type of, Bitcoin is the store of value and the gold standard, and it's this deflationary asset that seems to go up over time, and Litecoin is how you spend these profits in every day, well then the Litecoin blockchain is going to get full as well. So I don't know if I believe that so much, but in general, I think Litecoin, it was $2 million traded in GDAX, and it's becoming a very liquid asset.
Mhm.
And liquidity is extremely, extremely important in all of these assets. And if there is another currency that is very liquid and tradable and shares some of the same properties, values, and features as Bitcoin, I think that there will always be a use case to keep that coin around. And so that's what I see in Litecoin. It could be used for payments just as Bitcoin does. I don't think one is certainly better than the other at anything. I mean, well, I take that back. Bitcoin is obviously, the granddaddy of them all, but I don't think Litecoin is going to be better at payments or anything like that. But I think that, it is turning into a very liquid asset, a lot of liquidity, large market cap, and shares a lot of these future features. And a great development team, by the way. Charlie's the best. Those guys at the Litecoin Foundation are awesome.
Very awesome people.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I think LTC is going to hang around for a little while.
For quite a while. But
yeah.
So back to what you were saying with Bitcoin and Litecoin, I was asking Charlie Lee how because he said the Lightning Network is going to be able to keep the fees low. And I know that I saw his tweet that, oh, wow, there was no fees. How he didn't really answer that question for me, and maybe you can answer it, knowing that you're the creator of this. How did they manage to do that?
Yeah. So Charlie and I actually had our nodes connected via a payment channel, which allowed there to be no fee. But if the payment was what we call routed, which means it hopped around between Lightning nodes and ended up at a destination, there would have been a fee, but very small. We're talking Satoshis that don't equate to probably real dollar amounts that anyone would be able to notice. So Yeah, but I don't want to like advertise no fees forever. That was because Charlie and I were directly connected. But still, the fees will be very small. The reason for that is that, you know, with blockchains and settling transactions into blocks and mining them, you're asking for this global consensus system to all agree and store everything that's ever happened ever. and that's that's very expensive. And it takes a lot of computing power and a lot of infrastructure and stuff. With Lightning, it's just CPU bandwidth and like a point-to-point link. It's just these established relationships that these nodes have with each other. And if I have a node with you and you have one with Charlie, and I would like to send money to Charlie through you, I can say, hey, would you mind me using your point-to-point relationship with Charlie's node? And you say, sure. That is only a very small charge. You're not nearly using as much. You're not, asking someone to store, everything that's ever happened and globally come to consensus in 10 minutes. I'm just leveraging your relationship, and no one else needs to know about it as long as, the parties involved are okay, if that makes sense.
So yeah, I've looked into it a little bit. You can look into something so much, and it's still a little hard to fully grasp it if you're not a coder like yourself. I'm not a coder. But you can get a good grasp on how exactly it works. And like you were saying with the miners, and we were talking about Bitcoin and why the fees are going up, a lot of users, a lot of blocks to be filled. With Litecoin and the mining, it seems to be going in a centralized direction. Seems, we have the whole Jihan Wu thing, and they mine a large portion of Bitcoin with the ant pools, and also they have the ant miner L3 pluses that they have warehouses of, and they mine, and they have a lot of computing power. They have ASIC chips that you can't find anywhere else. So how would you answer that, and how would we fix that, and how would we maintain that? Hit me with it.
Yeah, what's the current market cap? $80 billion question, or right?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. That's a big deal. I think there's a lot of efforts that need to go into decentralizing mining, or more decentralizing. I wouldn't call it necessarily centralized, but it's more centralized than we would like. Decentralization is kind of like a sliding scale. And so how to solve that, I don't know. I think every single person involved in crypto assumed that mining would be much more decentralized now. It turns out that someone was able to come up with ASIC chips and sell them and manufacture, and that turned to be very profitable. And it was a snowball that was rolling down a hill and just got bigger and bigger. And so now we have this problem, and not only keeping mining decentralized, but also like how we update code with the whole SegWit fiasco, and how there was a party that was able to halt progress on a protocol and on a network was scary. So there's lots to figure out. I don't know the answer. Everyone has their own opinion. There's threats like POW changes, which are very serious, dangerous threats.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Could you give us could you explain, like, just really briefly what that is?
Oh yeah, so POW just stands for proof of work, and so miners have to perform this proof of work and figure out this algorithm, and if they change the algorithm, a lot of these ASIC chips that are manufactured are designed to solve this very specific algorithm, and if they change it, it would probably the attempt would be to invalidate a lot of the hardware that these companies have invested tons and tons and tons of money in to solve these specific algorithms. And if they change the algorithm, it would invalidate a lot of the hardware that's out there existing, and it would allow opportunity for more people to compete on a more fair level. But it would be a very serious threat to the people that have invested millions and millions and millions of dollars in the algorithm that exists today. It is essentially what's happening.
Yeah, and I know the Bitmain miners that they have for sale, they're like a plug and play miner. It's a plug and play miner. Very simple to set up and everything like that. But it's like, they're always out of stock, but it's like, how do we get these in the hands of the people to make it, really decentralizing in the people's coin? I know that you don't know the answer. We just went over that, but
yeah. And I also think that as dangerous as centralized mining may sound, and the fact that there's one company that seems to dominate, this ASIC manufacturing, I think that, UASF, that Litecoin was first and Bitcoin followed, was very, very important in demonstrating that the market and, what people value, ends up winning in the end. Miners can fork off and create coins and halt progress, but users are going to value a certain Bitcoin at, close to 5K and Litecoin at close to $100. And if you try and change that and mine it and sell it to the market, they just won't buy it. And you'll go out of business. So the game theory and the incentives that live in the crypto space are still alive and very healthy. And that was a very good sign, very bullish sign for, Litecoin and Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're going to run into challenges. Cryptocurrencies have run into challenges, before in the past. And like you said, it's exciting. Things are going to pop up, just like what we see with the Bitmain Jihan Wu thing. I think that, there's going to be even more disastrous things, even though that's not even disastrous, but there's going to be more things that are going to happen in the future that we're going to have to jump over. And I think regulation is going to be one of those things. But it's really not a huge deal. And I know that you're kind of acting like it's not a big deal. I think that there's definitely going to be a fix to it in the future once we come together and figure out what's going to be the future. So.
Yeah, and I mean, Bitcoin and Litecoin and these projects will always be under attack. I mean, you're talking about a project so ambitious that's undercutting, some of the most powerful people on the planet that enjoy their power and profit off of their power. So, Andreas Antonopoulos has always been very vocal that, Bitcoin is going at governments and nation states and central banks, and those are the top of the pyramid. And so we've expected this, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Attacks will come and they'll be clever.
That's what keeps us moving forward, though.
Yeah, Honey Badger gets stronger, man.
Yeah.
We're still here. Every day that Bitcoin and Litecoin and these coins survive is, we get closer to obviously higher prices and proving these people wrong. It's very binary, right? It's either going to be $0 or it's going to be a lot. And every single day that we're alive and we move on, we inch closer to being, the next form of payment and settlement system. And so.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do you think that people thought Bitcoin and Litecoin were dead, and now it just keeps coming back on top over and over? How many times have we heard that? Just let the viewers know that are new, how many times Bitcoin and Litecoin have died.
Infinite, man, infinite. I know there's the obituaries website. I forget the exact URL, but it actually has recorded every single, I think for Bitcoin, I'm not sure for Litecoin, every single news article or announcement that Bitcoin is dead or in too big of a bubble or whatever the case is. And you can scroll for as long as you're bored, and it seems infinite almost. So
you'll probably find, I mean, there's just so many people, especially like you said, it's just, there's a lot of fudders and stuff like that. And even big names. I mean, I'm not going to name anyone, but we had someone, big name billionaire, that was talking crap about, it being in a bubble. And now he's favoring it. I don't know. It gets a little crazy. I don't know what the deal is, but that's the glory of it.
Shrug.
But yeah, so back to the ZAP wallet, because that's what we're here for.
Sure.
How many developers are currently working on that project?
It is just me at the moment. So I have a bunch of people that have been very generous with their time that have been on the design side. And how do we craft an interface and a product that helps people solve problems? What problems are they looking to solve with the Lightning Network? How do they best want to view and see this and present it to potential customers or other people? And so there's designers that are working on that. And then I know some developers are interested in coming on, but it's just been me so far. So if you're a developer and you're interested, I'd love to have your help.
Gotta get an interview with this guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's crazy. I mean, you're telling me that like just months ago or maybe a year ago, I was told, or the FUDders were saying, which I don't follow the FUD, but a lot of people were saying that, oh yeah, Lightning Network's so far out. It's so far out. It's like moons away. And now we're hearing that it's the next 2 months are going to be huge times, not only for cryptocurrencies, but for Litecoin, for just cryptocurrencies. But I mean, that's crazy that you are the only developer of the ZAP Lightning Network wallet, and you've gone so far and have put so much effort. I mean, I know that you're working on the cloud. So now when I tweet, I have to be like, I have to only talk about you. I can't talk about The people working on Lightning Network are working around the clock. I just got to be like, Jack is working around the clock, guys. Nobody else.
No. There's a lot of smart people that I probably don't even deserve to be in a room with that
Yeah.
done some incredible work. I mean, the Lightning Labs team that ZAP is built on, one of their products, are outstanding and bright and very nice and inviting in questions and stuff. Charlie is obviously a very bright guy. I mean, there's a lot of very smart people that some people decide to spend their time talking and others decide to spend their time working, is how politely I'll put it. So yeah, people are working hard. And if you guys ever have any questions and stuff, you can come to me. But I certainly, if there were people that deserve, you know, shouts out and credits, I don't think I'm one of them. I'm happy to help, and I'm happy that I'm helping innovation in, you know, a space that I love and care about. But trust me, man, there's a lot of smart people out there.
Oh, no, absolutely. I know your sphere of influence. I follow your sphere of influence and Charlie Lee's, and they're all honest and hardworking. What I meant is that there's a lot of people working on Lightning Network, but you're the only person working on the ZAP. Developing it at least. So
yeah, and I think with ZAP, I really hope to foster this type of community. I know Eric Lombroso is very passionate, and he's, you know, involved in ZAP and wants to get more involved. Elizabeth Stark and a lot of those people are aware of ZAP. And more, I think we just hit 100 people in our Slack. And I really do want this to be about the community. I want the community to build this and reap the benefits of, you know, what could potentially be a very big deal. So yeah, if you're out there and you want to code, or you don't know how to code and you want to help, I get messages every day. So we'll grow it. I won't be the only one next time I talk to you, I hope.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad I'm here to have you on my channel, which is awesome, and also to spread knowledge so that other people can learn. But yeah, can you quickly go over what the UI problem is?
Yeah. So UI stands for user interface. So just how a user would interact with a service or a product. And I saw Gavin Andreessen, I don't know if everyone knows who that is, an old Bitcoin developer, replied to one of my tweets and, you know, was upset about the UI problem and stuff. And so essentially what everyone is talking about is that we have this protocol that's being, you know, built at the very bottom. But how a user interacts with that protocol is very important. You know, a very well-delivered protocol that works great that no one can use is, you know, useless, right? So the UI problem is, how do we take this very complex and tricky cryptography, which is what the Lightning Network is essentially, and how do we take this layer and how do we display it to people and make it useful? Which is a totally separate problem that doesn't involve a lot of code, right? What are people really going to use the Lightning Network for? What does it solve? What benefits does it offer? Who are its direct competitors? You know, what are people using right now that, you know, the Lightning Network would compete with when ready? And then how do we take that information and how do we craft that in a screen and in a way that someone can look at it and, you know, very intuitively solve their problem or be able to understand the potential, and how do we garner like innovation? And that's what the UI problem is all about. Is there's some very cool, you know, cryptography and computer science work done at the protocol level, and then how do we understand that and take that and deliver it to everybody in the world, to these billions of people, in a way that, you know, can best help them? And that's a tricky problem, and sometimes it doesn't involve a lot of code, but, you know, a lot of thought and understanding of what the technology is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like I was saying, is the more we reduce the complexity, the easier it is to educate people. You know, it needs to become, the blockchain needs to become a plug and play incentive. You know what I mean? So that is cool stuff. I mean, it's just so exciting to see you guys working so hard on this project, and there's so much promise because of the potential and the tech and the development. It's crazy. But just a few more questions real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see real quick. So you guys did a public testing last night, right? With the successful transaction. What exactly happened in the public testing?
Yeah, so we've been testing on testnet, the testnet blockchain, for both Litecoin and Bitcoin for a long time. I did a demo where I built an iOS app that it wasn't even called ZAP at the time. I didn't have a name for it, and it was working on testnet. It was Charlie, actually, that pushed this mainnet test. So Charlie took the code and just made a few changes so that we would run on the mainnet blockchain, which of course the difference between testnet and mainnet is that mainnet is just the real money. And it took us a little while, a few tries, and eventually we got it to work. But the significance of it is that it was not on some testing blockchain that was very safe and that we can kind of manipulate and use for our own good. This was actual Litecoin that was transacted instantly. There was zero fee, and micropayments were allowed.
Wow.
And this is the Litecoin that everyone else uses, and that was the significance, is that this stuff is real and it works, and it's only a matter of time before we start to see some serious innovation in the space. So that's what Charlie and I and everyone else was really excited about.
We're all excited, and
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing this because we're getting the true word out there. Litecoin has been humble for way too long. I've been watching it, and it's just the tech and development is there. The marketing is getting better. Things are moving fast. I know you guys are in works with some of the coolest things, biggest things. There's just so much to come, and I'm just like, I'm glad you're saying it right here with me. You've said it a few times, and I can't wait to make a post conference of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you said it was an iOS app before, but it's going to be one of your designers actually for the ZAP wallet messaged me and said that it's going to be an iOS app. There's going to be Android friendly. Is it going to be Linux friendly?
Yep. So right now ZAP is focused on desktop, which is Linux, Mac OS, and Windows, specifically because of some technical limitations. So just the way that Lightning works and this idea of running nodes and being able to relay to the blockchain and get and receive information, doing that on a cellular device. And, this is all still in alpha and beta and very new. So what we want to be running on a cell phone, what we don't need. I know there's some serious work being done by the Lightning Labs team and Roast Beef on that type of discovery and working on that. And so mobile didn't seem quite ready, and desktop seemed like the way to go and what would be production ready first. But it turns out I actually had a job not too long ago, and I was just at lunch. I built like a little iOS app, iOS and Android app, and that was where I was going to go first, as I thought Lightning Network would be mobile friendly first. So the only reason desktop first is because of some technical limitations and just being careful. But yeah, I plan on having ZAP be supported on desktop, Android, and iOS one day. It's all coming.
It's awesome. And one more quick question: would you be okay with accepting questions from our viewers after this last question?
Of course, man. Of course.
Alrighty. So the last question is, what are some of the additional benefits, or what's a further vision of the ZAP wallet? Is it going to be a point of sale system in the future that merchants will use? Give me some insight on that.
Yeah. So ZAP, I know Eric Lombroso had an interview recently where he touched on it as well, where I think we just want to really push that type of innovation. So the Lightning Network could be a point of sales, merchant tool. It could be a gambling tool. Satoshi Dice had a lot of success early on before, block fees and block sizes mattered. And it could be a gambling tool. We can see, industries that like censorship-resistant payments, like the dark web and, maybe the pornography industry, kind of adopted as a currency. We can potentially see big players like Amazon and Netflix that, want to get rid of credit card fraud and just offer a form of payment, that's instant and transparent. So there's all these types of use cases that, only a free market will determine success or failure, right? And there will be a lot of entrepreneurs out there that will be rewarded for guessing right. But we want to give them that opportunity, and we really want to foster that innovation and make sure that, it's very easy to build these applications and that people are able to realize the potential of the Lightning Network. So
that was perfectly said.
Awesome. Okay.
Man. Yeah, and it's not even just the people that want the decentralization or the elimination of the third party. It's also businesses because, like you said, credit card fraud, they deal with all of this continuous and evolving evolution that we're seeing because of this fraud and craziness with these businesses and the government and regulation. So it's not just the people that want this, it's businesses too. So it's, it's not really, people always try to say it's the community. It's the people's coin. Screw the government. Screw the big businesses. It's all collective, and it will all work together because in the end, we're far better off than we are right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things that I'm really excited to see, right? Like, if merchants are accepting this and they're able to cut, middleman credit card transaction, percentage charges and eliminate fraud and chargebacks and things like that, that would be very useful for a merchant. Does it make sense that a decentralized network can manage books, but a lot cheaper than a centralized party like a central bank or a credit card processor? Is that the case? We'll see, right? Only the market will be able to tell. Do people actually want to spend these cryptos? Do people want to use it as a currency, or is it the fact that it's this deflationary asset that's store value and is realizing profits over time as you hold it? Is there no use case for that? I don't know, but what's going to be really exciting is the technology is here to find out, and the market will find a use case and find value for it, which is awesome.
It's just getting started. I know you're so humble in your approach, but gosh, it's like it's just getting started. The doors are open. There's so many things to come. It's like we are on the bricks. I don't even know what I'm saying, but we're so close to just seeing so many different things change. And we have the fiat dollar that's losing its value. We've got this just amazing technology that just needs to be built on. But I'm just so happy that you are committing so much of your time, full time, in developing, not only the ZAP wallet, but working on Lightning Network and working with just such a influential sphere of influence, sphere of people that are all honest and really working towards that progressive vision. So I appreciate that.
Oh, of course, man. Absolutely. Thank you for all the confidence.
So, no problem, man. Hopefully I can learn code soon so I can join your team.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So if anybody has questions, throw them in the chat box. Jack would be happy to answer some questions real quick. If anyone has questions, it'll take a quick minute.
Yeah, anything you guys want.
So I see a question here. Could you use this wallet to give something as extra market value plus fees, meaning taxes, to the merchant willing to accept in terms of Litecoin reporting to the government? Did you understand that?
No. Did you understand it?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I think that what she's saying is with taxes, how are they going to deal with taxes when you're paying a merchant willing to accept it? I think.
Yeah, that's a good question. How are merchants going to report, profits in crypto and stuff like that? That's a good question. I think only now you report it as, I think in today you report it if you realize it in dollars or in your government currency. You report it as an asset, I think. But that's a good question,
right?
Yeah, commodity, and I'm not sure. I think that's one of the big questions when we see Lightning Network and the potential for it to disrupt some of this, merchant, payment tools. Is where's the law going to stand? Which side are they going to be on? And are they going to be able to tax it? Lightning Network leverages onion routing, and it's very private. And who's that going to piss off and not make happy? So that's a good question that I don't have an answer to, but it will play an important role for sure.
We already know that Coinbase reports to the IRS when you trade a certain amount of currency. So they're already doing that. They say that it's a $15,000 threshold or $20,000, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like it would be a lot different if storing your coins on Coinbase or BitPay, but then being able to be your own party and accept these instantaneous payments. You're not relying on anybody else. You would just download ZAP, and ZAP is not a centralized authority. It's simply open source software. So that would be interesting, and that is certainly something. I know there was an article recently about some gas station that was interested in using Lightning, to allow payments for gas. And one of the big, so there'd be like a gas pump, and you would pay like per whatever unit of measure I think they're using to pay for gas if you would like. and it was kind of bizarre and interesting. But one of the points that everyone was talking about is, where's the law going to stand on that? And so I think that's going to influence a lot. Is this legal? Is accepting Bitcoin going to end up being legal, and how do you pay taxes on it? Because obviously, if you're trying to avoid the state and the governments, they're not going to be happy.
Yeah, well, that's why we kind of need to accept, regulation, because the big dogs want to get in on it, and they need a piece of the pie eventually.
Yeah,
and we just have to understand that's just how it's going to be. But it's good that we're getting in now. And then here's another question: how are node-to-node transactions free? This e-currency hodler said he thought that Lightning Network required payment channels.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So when I say, that's a good question. So to clarify, when I say free, I mean the actual Lightning payment between the two nodes is free. What e-currency are the users, or the person who asked the question is referring to, is that you have to pay a fee to establish a channel and pay a fee to hop off of the Lightning Network and close the channel. And that's true. You're paying for security. So what the Lightning Network does is it leverages the protocol at the bottom, the base layer, as security, and you're still leveraging the same security that any other normal transaction makes, and you're paying for that security with the original transaction and the ending. But what's very cool is that I deposited whatever it was, 0.1 LTC onto ZAP and paid a very normal Litecoin fee, and then Charlie and I could transact for as long as we want with that 0.1 until I feel like realizing that back onto the blockchain for absolutely free. So if that makes sense, the actual Lightning Network payments themselves were free, but establishing space on the blockchain and paying for that security still is going to cost you a fee. If that makes sense,
yeah.
Hopefully.
That was well explained.
Okay, cool.
And then I wanted to talk about something because I follow you on Twitter, and I saw your posts. Like, is this what you think a bubble looks like? So
yeah,
give me something, because I know you're about to speak your mind, but you humble yourself. So speak your mind and let me know what.
Yeah. I'm happy to speak my mind. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of bubble talk, and it seems that the default position on crypto, if you don't understand it, people fall comfortably into saying it's in a bubble. My quick opinion on that is that I think we are trained currently to all of these assets and currencies that we hold to, depreciate over time. And, you see currencies with inflation and hyperinflation, and Bitcoin is a deflationary asset, and it's designed to appreciate over time. And so, you have these things like halvings, and so Bitcoin's rise is expected. If you read the white paper and you read the early conversations, it rewards early adopters, and as demand increases and supply decreases, that's very simple economics. Economics gets very simple when you cannot have central parties that can print more of it and issue government bonds and stuff like that. If there is a defined amount of supply at a defined rate, and then you just measure the demand that's coming in, and economics turns out to be pretty simple. So when you look at the chart in a logarithmic scale, and you factor in the fact that this is a deflationary asset, and then you factor in where our current economy is with inflation and some of the assets that the government and the Fed issues, I do not think we are in a bubble at all. I think we've got a lot of room to go.
less than $200 billion market cap on all coins. Are you kidding me? It's like, it blows my mind. It's like, it's like 4 words. It's limited supply and increasing demand, and not even the big fish have gotten in yet. So it's like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind that we have these flutters, and then it's sad because you got these new people that get in, they have no clue, and they're just learning, which is the best part. But then they get turned off because they're seeing a comment on a YouTube video that has 5 upvotes, and they're like, "Oh, the bubble's gonna pop." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, we need to fix this."
And it's great. I love the industry because opinions are free, and you can do whatever you want, and it's great that everyone has their own opinion. But it seems the news and mainstream default to this opinion of, I'm not really sure what this is, and I don't understand why it's going up so much, so it must come down soon because I don't get it. And that's okay. That's not their fault. But when you pull up a chart and you start to learn, and I'm obviously biased, but
Not really,
I
honestly.
yeah, I think we've got a lot more room to go up over the years.
Yeah,
So not investment advice, but
yeah, oh, absolutely. People think it's euphoria, and I'm like, I don't
yeah,
even think the institutional investors have gotten in yet.
right, right.
It's getting crazy out there. It's getting crazy. And I tell my viewers, I know you're saying the media or mainstream media.
Mhm.
I've been telling people on my channel, it's like the last thing I'm going to look at is the mainstream media for my,
Mhm.
information.
Yep.
There's just so many more sources to get your information, namely like you on Twitter or Charlie Lee or like the sphere that you surround yourself with. So those are good points to be made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's see if we have. I don't see any other questions. There's another thing I wanted to talk about. I can't think of it. I
Sure.
cannot think of
Yeah.
what I was gonna ask you. Oh yeah, this is like completely way back at the beginning when we were talking about this, but with the ICO frenzy, I know there's
Mhm.
an ICO frenzy going on. Um, you're not. I don't want you to. Obviously, you're not going to name any coins or whatever, but a lot of these coins, and I know this for a fact, have broken promises. They claim they have this software. They claim they have this development. They claim all these things that they literally do not have. And is that? I mean, what do you think? I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, a lot of these ICOs, it's just built off broken promises, and we're seeing it over and over again over the years. But
Yeah. So obviously, I don't think highly of it from a moral standpoint. I hope no one thinks highly of it from a moral standpoint. But I'm just going to go back to a previous point I had, and I think that in a bullish market where everything goes up 100x, there's no need to become educated, which is totally okay and no one's fault. This is all speculative value. I don't know an ICO project that's actually being used and delivering real world value, and that's okay. Even with something like Bcash, you can look at the transactions in a block and you can see that there's like 20 transactions in a block and no one's actually using it. Yet the price is going up and down and being manipulated and stuff. So what does that mean is that people are using it for speculative value, and speculative value doesn't last forever. And demand is king, and people need a reason to use it, or else the market just won't be liquid. So yeah, I mean, overall in crypto, there's lots of money to be made. There will also be
oh
lots
yeah,
of money to be lost.
yeah,
And it's unregulated. The SEC is only starting to get involved
mm-hmm.
with these ICOs and stuff. And as we see these projects run away with funds, don't actually come out with software, don't have real world use cases, people will lose money, and it'll be
Yeah,
sad. But it'll be no education is free. This is just
exactly.
kind of the form
Well,
of education that the community
until
is
you
going
come on my
through.
channel, I'm just playing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I mean, people lose money and everyone starts to learn and understand what they're buying, and they complain to the SEC, and regulators get involved because that's their job, is to protect the investor. And then, once we see these things develop, everything will make sense in the end. So
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I mean, you're just adding tons and tons of value to the community. I mean, I can't even equate to that on any level. But that one of the things that I've been really motivated to do is to give people a better understanding and a more truth or perspective of what's going on, instead of following all these up in the air YouTube channels that talk about ICOs. That it's just like, it's scary because there's a lot of attention getting paid to the cryptocurrency space, and it's growing every day. But it's very easy for someone that has no background reputation or know what they're talking about to blow up with that demand, that attention getting put on the cryptocurrency space, to where they look like they know what they're talking about, but it's like, they're talking about all these ICOs that have just been like Chaincoin. Chaincoin's a good example. And I don't want to talk crap about it, but I guess I am talking crap about it. But it's like it's just the pump and dumps and people losing money. It's just not fun to see. But
yeah, I mean, I think you're doing a great job. I actually was the one that reached out to you. I had some of your videos sent to me, and I reached out to you, and I'd be more than happy to chat. And I think, the
I
community as a
appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank
absolutely,
you.
man. And I think the community as a whole is doing a great job. Educating the fact that there's no barrier to entry and that anyone can buy any of these assets and anyone can do whatever they want with it is a blessing. But it also can be painful to those that aren't educated, and the market has seen a large increase in spike in value, which attracts more speculators and more people wanting to get involved that aren't necessarily educated. and that's okay, and that's natural. And you see these boom and bust cycles, which, you know, flush out some of the scams and educate the people, and, you know, we'll make progress. But, you know, sometimes there are these things that don't make a lot of sense, and that's okay though. That's okay.
Yeah, it's only gonna get better. We're gonna run into these trial and errors, but I just want to thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. I really look forward to the ZAP wallet being released very soon. You know, the huge things that are going to come. You know, there's big things to come in the next 2 months, big things to come. And I'm really excited, and I appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. This was fun. This was fun.
This was fun. Yeah, no, I'm glad we had a lot of people tune in. So
awesome.
Awesome. Well, I hope you take care, and I will definitely keep in touch, and I will be active on that ZAP Slack channel.
Yeah. All right, my man. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.